Alright, so apologies in advance because this is going to be a bit of a long video, but it's going to be worth it. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll be glad you watched it. So, I'm in my childhood home where I grew up, and I found something I wrote for a young authors competition when I was, 9 or 10. It's a book called The Comic, and there's just a fun image of the three main characters there. Don't worry, you will see plenty of them. I did go ahead and give myself a Newbery award. It's a bold claim, but honestly, I deserve it. Having read through this again, I deserve it. So, without further ado, this is The Comic, written and illustrated by Swisher when I was 9. It was the big day. The day of the comic convention. Not just any comic convention, the world's biggest convention ever. If you didn't have a comic, you were at least 50% fired. That's exactly how close Jif was to losing his job. Jif worked for the Dribble Comic Company. He thought he could relax now, though, as he believed he had finished his comic months ago. Wait a minute, I didn't finish my comic yet. He ran at the speed of light to the paper store, otherwise known as Paul's Peppers Plus Paper. Strangely, it only took him about 5 seconds to walk right out of the store. His house seemed to be stretched a mile away. Still, it only took him 1 minute to get to his house. So as a writer, I'm playing fast and loose with how time works here. But that's part of the art of it. Once he reached home, he ran to his desk. Where am I? Why do I have paper that smells like peppers? Cried Jif as he strained to remember. And I've got an illustration there of Jif running really fast to get to the paper store because time is of the essence. You see, Jif doesn't have a photographic memory. Some say he doesn't have a memory at all. One time he forgot it was his birthday, and the party ended up in January instead of July. So that's silly. His parents always said it would be a problem sometime. I guess he didn't remember. So there's a cool subversion I put in there of the literary form as a whole. I'm kind of reinventing the wheel with this one and just challenging what we consider to be fiction because I've just introduced myself as a character. Just then, he saw his greatest comic ever and remembered his mission. He sat down to write his new comic. So there's him dreaming up a new world. Jif wrote of a wonderful land called Delatrow. Life is great there forever, and nobody ever gets hurt. Suddenly, an evil, overreacting magician threatens to take over the land. Just then, a brave but very poor man stepped up to the challenge. He crossed dangerous oceans, waterless deserts, and treacherous forests. Yes, said Jif as he kept writing, I'm almost done. Then his writing started to slow down. There's him just churning that comic out. Jif's fingers were definitely tired from writing so much. He set his pencil back down on the paper and gave his hand a rest. He had big plans for the rest of the comic. The poor man would defeat the magician in a miraculous comeback in the battle. The poor man would then become rich and then help the other poor people. Jif soon drifted to sleep. And here's him dreaming up. There you can see there's the poor man and he's zapping the rich wizard with energy beams to just like punch him into submission. At first, Jif dreamt he had to save a land with a funny name from an evil overreacting wizard. So some fun meta-narrative there. Then he had to be somewhere really important in the next hour. There's some more. Jif then floated back to reality. There's a lot of layers going on here. There's a lot of layers. He got up to finish his comic. He reached over to get his pencil. Hey, where's my pencil? It's on the paper, said something inside Jif. Who said that? Questioned the still confused Jif. I'm your conscience. My name is Hunts. Jif, who still didn't understand Hunts, looked at his comic. Sure enough, his pencil was there, inside the comic. So here's Jif, and he's confused because there's Hunts with his wacky blue hair. And yeah, so I didn't do a good job of continuity there because, as you can see, there isn't a pencil inside that paper, but whatever. Touch it, screamed Hunts enthusiastically. No way. I could miss the convention if I get sucked in there, complained Jif. Come on, nothing bad will happen, Hunts urged. Jif cautiously poked the comic. Nothing happened. Suddenly, wind whipped together until it was facing Jif. No idea what that sentence means. Let's read that one again. Suddenly, wind whipped together until it was facing Jif. No clue what that meant, but I was the artist, so I'm just going to trust that I knew what I meant. It looked like a sideways dust tornado just waiting to steal Jif. It was sucking Jif in like a vacuum. So I'm confused by that imagery. If you are too, this is what that looks like. It's just a sideways dust tornado. There's a cool Clowns Rock poster that Jif has on his wall. So just a peek into his interests. Inside the portal, everything was as dark as outer space. All of a sudden, log cabins started appearing. Other objects floated into place also. This is my favorite part of the story, is this next sentence. It's almost like everything is being downloaded from the internet, Jeff said. Let's experience that sentence again together. It's almost like everything is being downloaded from the internet, Jeff said, and thought at the same time. Jeff started walking. He wasn't just walking, though. He was walking for no good reason at all. Before him appeared a man. Howdy, the name's Nestle, said the man, who seemed to be 6 feet and 7 inches tall. Now, he seemed to be 6 feet and 7 inches tall. I can only guess that I said seemed because I want to give the reader some creative license, too. It's not fun if the writer just gives everything to you, so I made it a little uncertain there, so you can have some room to, just determine a little bit to some degree Nestle's looks for yourself. Jif couldn't help but question him. Do you play basketball or something like that? Because he's tall. The man just stood there. He was either shocked or puzzled. Well, I'll be over at the big castle defeating an evil, overreacting wizard. Goodbye now, answered Nestle. Jif then decided to follow Nestle to the castle. So there's so you can get a vibe of how tall Nestle is. He's very tall. That's about 6 feet and 7 inches, not even counting the hair. Jif's a small boy. He's not very tall. Meanwhile, back at Jif's house, a visitor came to see him. Jif, oh Jif, you forgot your change at the store. It was Paul from Paul's Peppers Plus Paper. Paul headed over towards Jif's comic. Good thing I brought this pencil. Jif didn't finish his comic. Paul happens to love villains, though. And here's Paul. He's got cool Yu-Gi-Oh hair and seems to be holding, I guess I meant that to be a pencil, but it looks like a vortex to, like an underworld. Back in Delatrow, Jif and Nestle had finally reached the castle. It was as tall as North America. The color was a tie-dye of gray, black, and dark silver. Each window was bordered with a mahogany-colored piece of wood. I guess I suddenly became very concerned with making sure you, intricately knew what this castle looked like. Each piece of wood was carved into the shape of a magical hat. Do you think we should go in? Jif couldn't help but scream what he thought. Oh, he's screaming that, sorry. Do you think we should go in? Jif couldn't help but scream what he thought. Nestle opened the door with great caution. In the meantime, Jif was busy sweating a river. Why is he sweating a river? I have no clue, but he is. At first, the inside of the castle was dark, with nothing in it. There's nothing here. Maybe they need some wallpaper, said Nestle. Jif decided that he'd explore the place, but one false step shot Nestle and Jif into a trap door. Fools, said a voice out of the dark. You got that right, Jif cried to the dark voice, just a fun burn on himself. Gotta laugh at yourself. Gotta be able to laugh at yourself. Your doom will soon be sealed, shouted the voice, for I am Hershey, the evil, overreacting wizard. Out of the darkness came a figure with a wizard-shaped hat. That's right, a wizard-shaped hat, and a huge magical staff that ended in a point. Well, see ya, I'm headed home, replied Nestle. You can't just quit, answered the stunned Jif. Nestle walked away and quit. Thanks to Paul's addition to Jif's comic, Nestle had changed his mind about saving Delatrow. Instead, Nestle started a poor people's fund to raise money for the poor, which actually got him money too. So, Paul set up the situation for Hershey to win, but he's not a totally bad guy because he also helped the poor in this world. Jif was ready though. He knew the magician's goal was to defeat Jif too. Hershey waved his wand towards Jif. This is where the story ends, cried Hershey. Out of the wand came a green beam of light. Jif jumped just in time, and the beam went right under his legs. Luckily, he landed doing the splits. Because of that, the next spell missed him. So there's a picture of Hershey the evil wizard and Nestle quitting. And here is where, so the rest of the paper must have gotten ripped out of here on accident. So the story proper ends. I've gone ahead and rewritten the rest of it though, and I've done my best to just like preserve my, my original vision for this. So I'm not too worried. I think it's gonna maintain the same voice and the same style. Jif recalled the fighting stances his childhood friend, Ronda Rousey, had taught him when they were 7. No matter how many times those city kids bullied him, she would always come to his aid. Alright, that was a fun flashback, but back to the story at hand. Hands outstretched, Hershey's palms began emanating a jagged green energy, which lashed out at Jif like a snake to the kill. Be sure to visit Paul's Peppers Plus Paper for all your stationery and spice-related needs, he shouted as the powerful beam leapt towards Jif. As if in slow motion, Jif hurled his body down and to the right. He tucked himself into an aerodynamic roll, preparing for impact with the hard stone floor. Unforgiving gray enveloped his entire field of vision as he drew closer to the ground. He realized with a jolt that he was landing head first. Fear. Gray, an infinite sea of emptiness stretched before Jif, beckoning him to wade into its waves. Everything was dark and everything was blank. Because Jif's eyes were closed. He opened his eyes and saw a man who, going off looks alone, appeared to be some sort of overreacting evil wizard. Quit lollygagging! Get your dukes and put them up, ordered the wizard fellow, rather rudely. Why would I do that? Asked Jif. He didn't remember Hershey at all. There's that short-term memory coming back into play. You thought I forgot. Nope, it's here again. Don't you want to fight me and put an end to my dastardly, inhumane plans? Hey man, what you do in the privacy of your own giant castle is none of my business. Just then, the front doors to the castle slammed open. The familiar shape of Nestle's absurdly tall form streamed through the doorframe, and he was carrying something. Ah, yes, my arch-nemesis Nestle returned to bring an end to my debauchery. What horrendous weapon have you brought to exact justice? Strolling into the center of the hall, Nestle held out the object in his hands, a large bouquet of delicate pink flowers. Snapdragons, muttered Hershey, his heart swelling, causing his voice to shake. Why, snapdragons are my favorite. I just started a real cool nonprofit to help people that are poor, said Nestle. It may have cost my entire paycheck, but when I saw these neat flowers, I just knew I had to get them for you. Hershey began tearing up. All this time, I've been doing evil things, plotting against the poor just to get your attention. That's terrible, and also a bad idea, but I forgive you, said Nestle, handing the snapdragons to his arch-nemesis. From now on, I'll only do cool, good things. I'll let all the people of Delatrow that don't have somewhere to live stay in this exorbitantly large castle, and donate a lot of my money to your cool nonprofit. Jif couldn't remember who the heck these guys were, but he was glad they seemed happy. Wait a minute, he yelled. I'm gonna be late for the comic convention. The moment he said the words comic convention, a magical nerd energy enveloped him in a bright blue light. As the light dissipated, he realized he was at the convention center. Jif, you made it, a low voice happily exclaimed. It was his cool boss, Laura. Did you bring a comic with you? Oh, the comic! I left it in... Suddenly, Jif felt a slight crinkling in his left hand. He looked down and realized he had his comic with him after all. I left it in my hand. Good save, Jif. Oh, good, said Laura, because if you didn't, I'd have to at least 50% fire you, and that would be no fun at all. The two laughed and shared a friendly hug before turning to survey the convention floor. They had a big day ahead of them. And that is the end of the comic. So, Joshua Newbery, if you want to hit me up, Joshua Newbery, King of the Newbery Award, if you want to hit me up to go ahead and publish this book, I refuse to edit it. I refuse to submit it to editing, so if that's part of it, I've got bad news. It's perfect, it's exactly my artistic vision, and I will not let anyone's hands taint it. But, yeah, if you want to publish it and give me an award, just let me know, and thank you for watching. Alright, bye.